When is it going to stop raining, and is there any chance of that spring sunshine or warmth over the next couple of weeks? Well, I'll be answering those questions and more in this week's Deep Dive. Welcome along. Hi, I'm Annie and I'm a meteorologist and presenter here at the Met Office. We put one of these deep dives out every Tuesday. If you are new to the Deep Dive, welcome along. If you're a regular, welcome back. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and make sure you share this video with anyone you think might be interested, any friends or family who might be interested in learning a bit more about the weather here in the UK. So this week I am going to be talking a lot about the rainfall we've had so far this month and what more rain we've got to come, but also have a look at the temperatures over the next few weeks and the forecast for the next couple of weeks as well. But first of all, let's start with the rain. As I said, for some of us it has felt like it hasn't stopped raining for the past couple of months. I've definitely been feeling it here in the southwest in Exeter, but it's not actually been raining absolutely everywhere. February was the wettest February on record for southern areas of England, but it was actually considerably drier for more northern areas. So let's have a look at where it actually has been raining so far through March. So what we like to do is compare from our observations, compare them to the averages for the month. And this map does exactly that. So it compares the rainfall we've seen all the way from the 1st of March to the 11th of March. So you need to bear in mind that we haven't got the 12th of March data in there. It's been a wet day today. So these numbers will have changed a little bit through today as we've had rain just about anywhere across the UK today. But through the beginning half of March at least, rainfall has not been distributed evenly across the UK. So this map shows you how much rainfall has fallen already this month compared to average. And yes, that is compared to the average for that area. So generally more northern and western areas do see more rainfall. The averages are a little bit higher, but in the south and east it does tend to be drier. But you can see that actually across more southern areas we've had over 75% of the average March rainfall already across some southern and central areas, also some eastern areas, and generally across more eastern areas it has been wetter compared to average, compared to as well more north and western areas. So for parts of Northern Ireland, much of Scotland as well, particularly northern and western Scotland, northwest England, northern Wales as well, it's actually been fairly dry over the past couple of weeks, but we have had some rain today, of course. So through the rest of the week, where are we going to see the rest of the rain? Well, actually, we've had the rain across southern areas so far this month, but we're going to start to see that rain pushing in to these drier areas through the rest of the week at least. Let's take a closer look at those details. So this is the weather data for the next couple of days. Just going to add on our weather front. So you can see we've had this warm front push through the country through today, and that's brought quite a widespread area of rain. But through tonight we'll start to see the focus of that rain around this weather front. So we'll continue to push into the similar areas, into southern areas of Scotland, northwest England, North Wales, and at times into the southwest as well. That weather front sinks down to the south and then pushes back up north. It creates there's a wave that develops it on as well that will continue to bring pulses of rain, all feeding into the same area. So we're going to start to see our rainfall totals build up in these areas through the course of Wednesday and into Thursday before that weather front pushes further east, allowing a bit more of a showery day to develop on Friday across the UK. So we can have a look at how much rain we are expecting to see across the UK, across those areas, and I can do that by using our new toy that Aidan used last week, which is the rainfall accumulations. This is 3 hourly rainfall accumulations. You can see the code, the key on the side there shows how much rainfall. So the yellow colours you start to see through Thursday are 8 millimetres falling in a few hours. So I'll just go back to Wednesday. So through to tonight and into tomorrow morning, we'll start to see quite heavy rain across parts of Wales, parts of northwest England, southern Scotland, and as well as South Wales, the southwest as well, seeing the heaviest of the rain. Then that rain will shift further north into more southern areas of Scotland, the central belt as well. Northern Ireland seeing quite a focus of the heavy rainfall too. So that rainfall distribution, you can see that we're going to see most of the heavy rain through Wednesday and through Thursday. Just keeps building up in the same places basically, but the point of that I showed you where it's rained before, it's rained so far this month, is you can see that actually where we're going to be seeing that rainfall through the rest of the week is actually where it's already been quite dry. So although it is going to be quite heavy, there's going to be quite persistent rain, that isn't a huge cause for concern at this stage because these areas haven't seen as much rainfall so far this month. There is a bit of uncertainty with exactly how heavy that rainfall is going to be as well. So we can just have a look at a few different models. So on the left here, I've got the UKMO, the Met Office model. I've got the ECMWF, the European model, in the middle. GFS, the American model, is on the right. So earlier on in the week, we weren't quite sure how far north or how quickly that weather front was going to push, and that was bringing an impact in. We weren't entirely sure how heavy the rain was going to be, how high the accumulations were going to be. The models have now come in line quite a lot more. You can see there's a good trend of exactly where the heaviest rain is going to be. It's still highlighting those similar areas, North Wales, the Lake District, parts of Dumfries and Galloway as well, seeing the heaviest rain, but the peak totals varies from image to image quite considerably. The Met Office model has got the highest totals. That could be to do with how the orography is mapped, because the high ground is going to intensify that rainfall. So we could see up to about 100 millimetres falling over the 48 hours. I should say that this is the 48-hour accumulations between Wednesday and Thursday. So up to about 100 millimetres could fall locally in parts of North Wales, the Lake District, or Dumfries and Galloway. So certainly going to be a very wet couple of days in these areas. But in contrast, across the south and the east, it's actually going to be quite a lot drier. So these areas where we have felt like the rain hasn't stopped, there's quite a clear signal that we're going to see a drier few days, and it is going to start feeling a bit milder as well, even a little bit warmer in that sunshine. I'll touch on the temperatures in just a moment. First of all, I'll just show you what weather we're expecting for the rest of the week and into the weekend as well. So let's turn off the rainfall accumulations and go back to our pressure and the weather, the cloud and rain. So if I press play, by Friday morning, that low pressure system is going to push through, clearing out the way that main front that will have persisted in those northwestern areas, and then it will turn quite a lot more showery through Friday. So Friday is going to be a day of sunshine and showers. It's going to be quite a blustery day as well. The showers could be heavy. They bring a risk of hail too. So still an unsettled day, and those showers could push into more eastern areas where it would have been a drier and brighter couple of days. And then once that low pressure system clears out the way to start the weekend, we get a little bit of a ridge between systems just for a time. So that will bring some drier, brighter weather for a time for Saturday morning. It's probably the longest lived drier spell that we'll see widely across the country for a week or so, I'd say. And so make the most of it if you are going to be getting up early on Saturday. But that will allow temperatures to fall, so it's likely to be quite a cold start on Saturday. But then quite quickly from the west, we'll start to see the next batch of rain. Quite a large area of low pressure will sweep up to the north and west of the UK, dragging with it this batch of quite intense rainfall. That rain, the cold front, the front on the wrapped around that low pressure system, will push eastwards through the day, through the night on Saturday, but there is a bit of uncertainty with how quickly this rain will clear through Saturday night and into Sunday. So there's a chance we could be stuck with quite a lot of this wet weather still on Sunday. But once it does clear to the east, it will turn to showers. So it will turn a little bit drier, but still a risk of showers and probably still quite a lot of cloud around on Sunday. I'll be giving more details on our full weekend forecast. We'll be giving more details on our full weekend forecast. It's not actually me this week. I think it might be Alex Burkhill on Thursday. So make sure you stay tuned for that if you are interested in a bit more detail for the weekend. And we'll have a bit more in our 10-day trend tomorrow as well. So, as I said, the temperatures with all of that are going to be picking up through the rest of the week too. So let's take a closer look at the temperatures. So why is it going to be getting warmer? Well, it's because we've got this warm front that's brought the heavy rain through today to many areas. Let's turn off our jet stream. So this warm front that's brought the heavier rain And we'll be stuck in this warm sector, we call it, through the rest of the week, feeding up this southwesterly wind, mild Atlantic air coming up from the southwest. And you can stay if I scroll all the way through, we stay with this mild air all the way through the end of the week. There is a little colder interlude for a time on Saturday as that ridge allows some of that colder air to dive down from the north. But then once again, as that low pressure system comes in for Saturday, we'll start to see that mild Atlantic air return again. So there'll only be a very short-lived colder spell through Saturday morning. Well, through Friday night into Saturday morning. So we can have a quick look at our graphs as to what sort of temperatures we can expect. So now we're into March. Average temperatures vary between sort of 9 degrees in the daytime. But if I have a roam around, in the east is where we're going to see the highest temperatures through the end of the week, sort of Wednesday to Friday is when we'll likely see the higher temperatures. We could see highs between 16, possibly 17 degrees across eastern areas if we do see any of those sunnier breaks. It really depends how much sunshine as to whether we bump up from that 13, 14 up towards 17. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that through the rest of the week. And you can see across eastern areas it stays quite mild. Saturday, because it's going to be a colder start and then we have got quite a lot of rain arriving, is going to be the colder day out of the next 5 for many areas of southeastern England. Further west, we won't see the highest temperatures, but we will still see temperatures above average for the time of year by day and also by night. Across the north, though, we'll be closer to that colder air through a lot of the rest of the week and into the weekend. So temperatures will be a little bit lower, much closer to average, really, for this time of year across the more northern areas. It's also going to be mild overnight as well. So there'll likely be a touch of frost on Saturday morning for some sheltered areas in the north. However, by and large, it's going to be well away from we're going to be well away from freezing, particularly the further south you go. Other than that Friday night, Saturday morning period, temperatures are above sort of 7 or 8 degrees overnight, closer to 11 or 12 degrees for some areas. So certainly it's going to be staying mild by day and also by night, all the way into the outlook, into the start of next week. And then what happens after that? So we're going to continue to see low pressures pushing in from the south and west, moving up to the northeast through the weekend. This is the picture we have through, let's put the pressure on. By the end of Sunday, we've still got this low pressure system. Yes, and it would likely turn a bit more showery. So to start next week, we'll still have this low pressure system built up to the south, to the west. But then, yeah, what's going to happen after that? Well, let's have a look at the general trend. So we're getting a little bit more technical now. So you can see here what I have is the multi-model weather regime probability. So we look at lots of different models. It's compiled all the different models, outputs, and compared and got the overall trend from all of them because they don't always show the same thing, as you know. Blues show lower pressure sort of regimes. Reds show higher pressure regimes. So through the first few days of this, up until this is about Monday the 18th, Tuesday the 19th, we've got very much blues dominating this chart. So each column shows the day and it's the stacked probabilities of all the ensemble members of what they are showing, what sort of regime they fit into. So blues are dominating, and it's not just any old blue, it's the pale blue. The pale blue is typically a southerly tracking low weather pattern. So a low pressure system that tracks across to tracks to the south of the UK. So that's those low pressure systems coming in from the south, moving up to the north and west. So we're going to basically continue to see quite a similar pattern that we've seen through, that we'll see through the rest of this week and the weekend, continuing until most likely Tuesday, possibly Wednesday next week. And then there's quite a sudden jump through the middle part of next week where we start to see the reds become a bit more dominant. There's a greater probability of seeing those higher pressure regimes. The darker red denotes the typically blocked weather pattern. So that's when we see a blocking high, and that can either bring us that drier weather, but it can also just drive the direction of those low pressure systems. And we'll continue to see that battle between the low and the high continuing all the way for the next few weeks, really, to be honest. But it's likely we'll start to see that more of an influence of higher pressure throughout from the middle of next week for the next few weeks at least. It's quite typical for this time of year to start seeing those high pressure building we've moved out of winter, we're moving into spring. We start to see that. We've also recently seen a third sudden stratospheric warming event, which can lead to more blocking patterns here in the UK. So what does that blocking pattern mean? Well, it's going to be quite a slow trend towards it if we do get towards it. So let's take a closer look at the week on week. So this is for next week, the pressure trend. Greens are lower pressure, pinks are higher pressure, and generally we have got lower pressure dominating through a lot of next week. As I said, that's when we're going to probably see that transition from lower to high pressure, bringing some sort of influence, whether it's that drier weather or just driving the direction of the low pressures. You can see high pressure starting to build in from the north. Currently we've got quite a blocked high across Europe and into Scandinavia, so it's likely we'll start to see that high topple around to the north. So that could start to shift some of the wetter weather further south into the UK. And then the second week, so this is the week of the 25th of March, we've still got low pressures coming in from the south and west, but we've got a larger area of this blocked higher than the normal pressure. I should say these are the anomalies. This doesn't show whether it's low or high. This is lower than average or higher than average. So there's a greater chance of higher than average pressure blocking across to the north of the UK, but also to the west. So we'll likely start to see that higher pressure bringing potentially more settled spells or just driving our lower pressure systems a little bit further south. And you can see that quite nicely in what that means for rainfall. So for next week, yes, it is going to be staying wet, particularly across southern and western areas. Eastern areas drier, slightly drier in comparison. Also, there's a tiny spot of white in the very far north of Scotland, which shows it's neither wetter or drier than average. Currently this week we're wetter than average across the UK, but we're not quite this wet, so it'll just turn a little bit drier for the week of the 18th to the 25th of March. And then the next week is when we start to see that high pressure a bit more dominant. You can see it turns a bit drier than average across parts of Iceland, Scandinavia as well, on the most part. But also we start to see that dry weather pushing into northern areas of Scotland, or many areas of Scotland, Northern Ireland. So just from the north, we could start to see that drier weather moving in. Now, block patterns as well, you may know, can lead to colder spells, particularly through winter as well. And there is a chance we could see some colder weather throughout the end of March and into the start of April. It is worth also saying that this drier weather could push further south from time to time as well. So I think just having high pressure on the chart, having a chance of it, is better than not seeing it at all if you are after that drier weather. So we start to see hints of possibilities of that dry weather coming and going. There's no strong signal that it will be completely high pressure, completely dry, but there are chances that it could dominate mainly in the north, but also that it could bring drier spells further south as well. So what does that mean for the temperatures? So I was talking about how cold that could be as well. So the first week, the 18th of March, it's unlikely. We'll see a slightly downward trend on how wet and how warm it will be compared to this week. But it's the week of the 25th of March, which is what this one shows. This is the temperature. So red is higher, warmer than average. Blues is colder than average, and this is the first sign that things trend down from that milder theme that we are now moving into. So it's not until at least Monday, the 25th of March, that week onwards, that we could start to see that colder weather. However, it's worth noting that it's we get fewer and fewer options as we head into the end of March and April that bring that colder weather. In the winter, in the depths of winter, Europe is very cold. It's a great big landmass that cools down quite quickly. So if we do pick up an easterly wind in the winter, it can turn very cold and we can see wintry weather. However, as you head into spring, as is a big landmass, it also warms up very quickly as well through spring. And it isn't looking like it's going to be staying particularly cold across many areas of mainland Europe. And so if we get an easterly, it's not going to be a particularly cold direction. So as you head into March, into April, you need more of that northerly influence to bring that colder weather. So there's fewer options for any colder wintry weather, but there's still possibilities of seeing it. If you do see a northerly or a northeasterly or a northwesterly, having said that, you could get that colder weather. So there's a chance as we head towards the end of March, the beginning of April, we could see some colder spells that could bring some wintry showers. There's nothing in the forecast that looks like we're going to see any widespread disruptive cold weather at all, but there's just a chance that it could get a bit colder and potentially we could see some further snow before the end of the spring and before we move into the summer. So potentially going to be turning a bit colder towards the end of the month. That is only the most likely scenario. It's not the only scenario. It could stay milder and wetter for the majority of the country. So please keep up to date with the details in all of our 10-day trends and our deep dives. But for the time being, pretty much the opposite is going to be happening. We'll be moving into that milder and quite wet period, particularly for the northwest. So please make sure you keep up to date with our day-to-day forecasts. Thank you very much for joining me and have a lovely rest of your day. Bye-bye.